Hello there, live from London. This is BBC News. The Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko casts doubt over the whereabouts of the mercenary group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin after saying he could be in St. Petersburg or somewhere else. Schools are expected to close across England, with teachers striking again over paying conditions. And a BBC investigation has found that dangerous muscle-building supplements are being sold across the UK. Hello there, I'm Victoria Valentine. We are going to start with one of Moscow's staunchest allies, the leader of Belarus. He has cast doubt on the whereabouts of the mercenary leader who led the mutiny against the Russian military 2 weeks ago. Alexander Lukashenko, who brokered the deal that helped end the rebellion, said that the boss of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was now back in Russia, despite original claims that he'd been exiled to Belarus. Meanwhile, it's unclear who's now in control of the thousands of mercenary fighters in Russia who've been battling Ukrainian forces for several months. Alexander Lukashenko made those comments to a very small gathering of journalists. One of them was our very own Steve Rosenberg, and he has this report. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
Bringing you different stories from across the UK.
200.
For more stories from across the UK, head to the BBC News website.
Hello there, welcome back. You are live with BBC News. Dangerous muscle-building supplements are being sold to gym goers right across the UK. This is according to a BBC investigation. The products, which are popular on social media, aren't approved for sale, but the BBC has found them widely available in shops and also online. Experts are warning that they can cause really serious side effects. Cash Jones has been investigating.
It's really destructive.
Hannah, we're going to have to leave it there. Hannah Handel, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts there. We will have, of course, more news from Fukushima as the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog prepares to give a press conference about his decision. Hi there, live from London. This is BBC News. We want to take you live to the scene in Tokyo, where the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, has been talking about the agency's confidence in the Japanese plan to release treated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean amid heavy criticism from China. We will, of course, bring you.
Thank you very much.
Translation. Here we go.
Words of introduction. It is a pleasure to be here with you again.
So interesting there, saying we need to be understood. Rafael Grossi very much saying that the scientific endeavour that the team has been doing, this task force has been doing since 2021, needs to be converted into terms that everyone can relate to and everyone can understand. Let's bring in Shaima Khalil, who is in Tokyo, who's been listening to all of this for us. This was a shocking disaster when it happened back in 2011, and there has been a lot of concern in Japan and also, of course, in South Korea as to what happens next. Do you think these comments, this press conference, all the information that we're getting is going to start allaying some of those concerns? Yes, that's absolutely right, Shaima. Thanks very much. And actually, just to add to that, they're going to have to convince China as well. It's the biggest buyer of Japan's seafood exports, and the country has said it will be banning the import of food from about 1/5 of Japanese prefectures for safety reasons. This is according to customs in China, citing Japan's move to discharge nuclear contaminated water into the sea. So we will bring you more on that story when we have it. But for the moment, let's turn our attention to the business news. And Janet Yellen, the US Treasury Secretary, she's on a mission to restore communications between the world's top economies. Ahead of her meeting, she tweeted, "We seek a healthy economic competition that benefits American workers and firms and to collaborate on global challenges." She went on to say, "We will take action to protect our national security when needed. Billions of dollars worth of import taxes and tariffs are still in place between these two sides. And more recently, tensions have been flaring over Washington's efforts to limit Chinese access to advanced computer chips. Just this week, in fact, Beijing tightened export restrictions on two rare minerals, both used in the chip industry." Well, we can speak now to Ali Wynn, who's the senior analyst for global macro geopolitics at the Eurasia Group in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for staying with us, and apologies for that breaking news before coming to you. We appreciate you staying on. Now,
My pleasure.
There is a lot of rhetoric, isn't there, around these two sides, but there's also significant ties. China continues to hold about $1 trillion worth of US debt. It's America's third largest trading partner. So how mistrusting or distrusting are these countries really of each other? Okay, Steve, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much. Steve Hill in London, taking notes on the Grand Prix this weekend. Now, I want to just bring in markets for you, just because we did mention them and what's going on with the markets. We've seen actually some pretty concerning stuff going on. The Asian markets tracking the US lower after those pretty hawkish signs from the Federal Reserve, and that sort of dented sentiment a lot. So the expectation that we're going to see further rate rises in the world's biggest economy, and we just want to take you to those US markets so you can see what has been going on. The Dow down 1% at the end of the day. So that's pretty much it from your business news. There's going to be lots of interest in what goes on between Janet Yellen and Chinese officials over the next couple of days as they meet. Of course, what happens between those two countries, the biggest economies in the world, determines what goes on in the rest of the world, as Peter Sand was saying there, in terms of shipping and emissions there. Do stay with us here on BBC News. We will have plenty more for you, including live reaction to that news from Fukushima about water now being safe to return to the ocean. Stay with us. We will have plenty more in just a moment. Bye-bye. Live from London, this is BBC News.
I don't have the authority, or the IEA does not have the authority to stop or to start anything. This is a sovereign decision by Japan and by the operator, when they start, when they stop.
The Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko casts doubt over the whereabouts of Yevgeny Prigozhin after saying he could be in St. Petersburg or somewhere else. Schools are expected to close across England, with teachers striking again over paying conditions. And a BBC investigation has found that dangerous muscle-building supplements are being sold across the UK. Hello there, I'm Victoria Valentine. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog has just been giving a press conference following his approval of controversial plans to release water from the wrecked plant of Fukushima into the sea. Since 2011 and the tsunami which hit and damaged the plant severely, more than 1 million tonnes of treated wastewater has accumulated. Japan now wants to start discharging it into the Pacific Ocean. The watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, published a report endorsing Japan's plan. Let's listen to some of that press conference now. Colonel Brendan Kenny there. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
BBC News, bringing you different stories from across the UK.
Tuesday morning and the streets around Easton in Bristol.
For more stories from across the UK, head to the BBC News website.
Hi there, welcome back. You are live with BBC News. Now, the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in China to try to rebuild ties and trust between the two economic powerhouses. Her visit is the second by a senior Biden administration official in as many months, and it comes amid signs that the Chinese economy is flagging. Youth unemployment is at a record high and exports are down. Our correspondent Rupert Wingfield-Hayes joins us now to talk about this. Rupert, there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of hope that much will necessarily come of these meetings, but it's quite significant as diplomacy goes. I just want to bring you an update on a very sad story, a fire that broke out on Thursday in Milan. 6 people have died, it's now been confirmed, and more than 80 people have been injured since that news broke. This fire, it was in a retirement home in Milan. Firefighters were very quickly on the scene, but 81 people were hospitalised as a result. 6 people have died in that fire. Do stay with us here on BBC News. Plenty more to come.
Now on BBC News, the latest business news from across the globe. World Business Report.
Hello, live from London. This is BBC News. We seek healthy economic competition, so says the US Treasury Secretary to Chinese leaders ahead of high-stakes talks between the two top economies. Also coming up, logistical nightmare. 340,000 UPS workers prepare to walk out in what could be one of the biggest strikes in US history. Plus, wound up by Threads, Twitter threatens to sue as more than 30 million people join Meta's rival app in a day. Hello there. We're going to start in Beijing, where the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is on a mission to try to restore communications between the world's top 2 economies. Ahead of her meeting, she tweeted, "We seek a healthy economic competition that benefits American workers and firms and to collaborate on global challenges." She went on to say, "We will take action to protect our national security when needed." Billions of dollars worth of import taxes and tariffs are still in place between these two sides. And more recently, tensions have flared over Washington's efforts to limit Chinese access to advanced computer chips. Now, just this week, Beijing tightened export restrictions on 2 rare minerals, both used in the chip industry, as Monica Miller in Singapore reports. Let's get some of the day's other news now, starting with Samsung. The company says it expects profits to fall 96% in the 3 months to the end of June, to the lowest in 14 years. The South Korean tech giant is suffering huge losses in its memory chip business because of a drop in demand for smartphones and other devices amid an economic slowdown. Travellers in London could face a week of disruption later this month after the RMT union announced a strike action by the London Underground workers from Sunday the 23rd of July until the following Friday. The row with the Transport for London group is over pensions, job cuts and working conditions, which the union said could put 600 positions at risk. And coming up, Viva Las Vegas! They didn't think I'd do that. The entertainment capital is back, bouncing back from the pandemic, more profitable than ever. We're going to be speaking to the city's tourism chief. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
BBC News.
Hello there, you are live with BBC News. Now, it's become the fastest growing app of all time, Threads. The social media platform launched by Meta to rival Twitter has already signed up more than 30 million users since it went live at midnight on Wednesday. This is according to Mark Zuckerberg, the boss of Meta. It's the latest headache for Twitter, which has been struggling since its takeover by the billionaire Elon Musk. According to reports, a lawyer for Twitter is now threatening to sue Meta, accusing it of hiring former Twitter staff and stealing revealing trade secrets, something that Meta denies. Our tech correspondent in San Francisco, James Clayton, reports. That's it from me. I will be back in about half an hour. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.